Welcome to Toys to Titles Down Under Dynasty Edition. I'm here, as always, your host at Life from the Ben, and with me as usual, my co-host at FF Doormat. How are you today, Matt?
Mate, I'm doing wonderfully well. Trying to escape lockdown as best I can, but excited to talk a bit of Dynasty football. Did a one QB redraft mock last night, which was fun. It was interesting just to throw the shackles off and just take your best guys. It felt like that's what you do in one QB redraft. So I just took top-rated blokes. But yeah, excited to talk a bit of Dynasty today with our special guest.
Our special guest, a much beloved friend of the show. So let's not waste any more time.
How you doing,
man? I'm doing good, mate. I'm doing good as far as lockdown goes. Got some Providor again last night from Pertuso in Melbourne. It's a Peruvian restaurant. It was really, really delicious. Yeah, just ate that and potted around the house. Nothing terribly exciting, unfortunately, while the lockdown's going on. Hope it gets lifted soon because we're going away for my partner's birthday weekend of the 8th of August. 8th of August? Weekend of the 7th of August, because, yeah, it's Saturday. So, yeah, but look, let's not leave our guest wanting in the lobby. Let's bring him in. At Marple is here. How are you, sir?
Oh, yeah. Doing a similar thing to Matt, hanging out in Sydney, dealing with lockdown. I mean, we've been pretty lucky here in Sydney, so I shouldn't complain, but, it's starting to get a little bit old. So, yeah. I mean, the Olympics are on now, so at least that'll keep me busy for the next 16 days or whatever it is. So,
yes, it looked very, very full at the opening ceremony. That was a very strange opening ceremony to be seeing.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see another one like that in our lifetime.
No, mate, not at all.
Hopefully not.
Very, very odd. So, look, we brought Bull on for a very specific reason. Speak to a topic that he's very passionate about. And that is what's happened to Cam Akers, the guy, superstar running back who was, potential breakout running back who looked primed for a massive season with the LA Rams, suffered a ruptured Achilles, torn Achilles injury, torn Achilles. No running back has really come back to be successful from a torn Achilles. I did a little bathroom break yesterday where my opinion was that it would be best to move off Cam Akers. I don't think he's ever going to return the value that he would have. Even if he can come back from the injury, the opportunity isn't going to be there like it was before. That was the theme of my take. I don't want to go too much into that because we're here for Bull's take. Mess with the bull, you get the horns. So, Bully, what's your position on Cam Akers? What are you doing?
I think there's almost been an overreaction to the injury. I mean, I think when you look at the fact that realistically the running backs we're comparing him to,
Cut out, Bully.
We're comparing him to guys that injured themselves in 2004, and I think if we look at pre-2010, an ACL tear was nearly a career-ending injury. A torn Achilles happens less in the NFL. But I think there's enough evidence with guys like Emmanuel Sanders coming back. He tore his Achilles early in the season and came back for the last 4 or 5 weeks. I think we're starting to see enough evidence that medicine has moved on enough that this isn't a career-ending injury.
Hang on, mate.
We're talking about different positions. We're comparing.
Yeah, you keep cutting in and out. Is he cutting in and out, Matt, for you?
Yeah, it sounds like you're underwater, mate.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're at your Olympic pool underwater.
Whoa. Huh?
Just having some audio issues.
Audio
You're
issues.
muted. I think you're muted now, Bully.
Unmute, mate.
Unplug your headphones and unmute.
There we go. Is that better?
Oh, beautiful.
That sounds way
Heaps
better.
better.
Heaps
Yeah.
better, mate.
Any better?
Dulcet tones.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think
Take
I
two,
think we're
Cam Akers.
comparing. There's such a limited. Huh? I
Cam
think because
Akers
there's
take
such a
two.
limited sample size. I think there's such a limited sample size of running backs who have actually torn their Achilles. I think the data that we pulled relies on running backs from pre-2010. And I think if we look pre-2010, a torn ACL was almost seen as a career-ending injury. I think we've only got to look back at the last 12 months when two players, yes, different positions in sports, in KD and Sanders, have torn Achilles and come back and been as good. You're comparing 30-year-old athletes to a 22-year-old as well. So I think we know that the younger you are, the more chance there is of coming back. I think there's also on the list of running backs who have torn their Achilles, there's also a real problem with the fact that none of them have really done it at that age. I think Dante Foreman did it at 25, and I think everybody else on the list has been, 27 and up. 27 for a running back in the NFL is pretty much retirement home. We don't see too many running backs last past 27, even with two Achilles being functional. Do I think we're going to see Cam Akers in the top 2 rounds of startup again? Probably not. But his value's dropped to the point where you can buy him for. I've seen him bought for a second. I bought a share for Drew Lock in a Superflex League. I've bought a share for a 2024 first. When you consider the fact that you're throwing a price out.
You sound like Robo Bull again. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna remove you and bring you back in. 1 second. Hello. Okay. Maybe we're good now.
All right. I think, I think when you're looking
take us through what you bought him for, because we couldn't hear you before. So tell us what you bought him for.
I've made a few trades. I bought one share for Drew Lock. You're looking a questionable starting QB in a Superflex league. A 2024 first. I bought him for a second and a third. I think when you look at the value that you can get for him, like realistically, if you could buy Michael Carter or Trey Sermon, who are in similar situations, for a 2024 first, I think you're in a position where you're like, all right, like I'll take 2 to 3 seasons of RB2, RB3 production. And, I just think there's been an overcorrection on his value. I don't think you're ever going to get that top 12 startup value. I don't think you're going to get that top 24 startup value. But if you can buy RB2 production for that price, and even if you've got to wait a year, I think it's good value. And I think there's worst case scenario, if you're spending a late first on a player and they don't pan out, it's still a 50-50 odd. Even if you're drafting a rookie in that position, like we all drafted Jalen Reagor last year, expecting that production was going to be through the roof. And I think a few of us got burnt. We know that as good as Devontae Smith and Rashad Bateman and all that are this year, half of them aren't going to produce at a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 level. So if you're going in with that price point of a late first or a future first,
I don't think it's a bad investment.
I like getting him for Aaron Rodgers' backup. I think that's pretty impressive.
I think any trade we see between Denver and Green Bay is going to involve Locke going to Green Bay, to be honest.
We'll see. They've got franchise superstar quarterback Jordan Love, so I don't think they need Drew Lock, but we'll see how all that plays out. So, look, I understand what you're saying, right? But if you're trading a future first for Sermon or Carter, those are guys that can increase in value right now. Whereas Akers can't do that anymore.
Yeah, but I think we'll see.
Yeah, but say if you're competing trying to get a championship, doesn't Carter and Sermon make more sense?
It's team dependent, isn't it? It's team dependent.
I can see the argument that if you're a team that you think you can win it this year, then making the trade for. I mean, I saw one trade which was Mike Davis and a third for Cam Akers and a second, which was absolutely disgusting. You're trading a 22-year-old running back for a 28 or nearly 29-year-old running back and moving back around. Like, I think that's absurd. I can see the argument that if you think you can win it this year, sure, make the trade from Cam Akers to a Chris Carson or something like that, where you know you're going to get 1 to 2 years of RB1, RB2 production. I really like Michael Carter. I really like Trey Sermon. But once again, I think they're being drafted too high for what they are. I think we've learnt enough recently with Phil Lindsay and James Robinson that those running backs, unless they're drafted in the top 2 rounds, they are a rental. Like, you're buying them for a year or 2 years, and then you need to sell. Unless they've got that Zeke Elliott, Derrick Henry, draft capital behind them.
So you're telling me
you're buying a draft, hoping to get a year of production out of him off season.
You're telling me Antonio Gibson is a rental because he was drafted in the 3rd round? That's just mean. What are you trying to do to me, bully? A rental? Antonio Gibson is going to finish as the RB1 this season. Okay, the RB1 overall. Alvin Kamara was
not as long as JD McKissick is there, Kat.
No, JD McKissick, career highs last year with the check down king. The check down king is gone. The YOLO king is there. Okay, all right. Check down gone. YOLO lives. But
I think that's the problem. That's the problem we're going to see. Like, I think, especially with Alvin Kamara, like, his value has been predicated on Drew Brees being there. All word out of camp is Taysom Hill is going to start. Or, worst case scenario, they're going to go QB by committee. In Taysom Hill's 4 starts last year with Alvin Kamara, Kamara only had more than 1 target in 1 week.
But what's that got to do? What's that got to do with running back draft capital, though? Like 3rd and 4th round draft capital is real draft capital for running backs, in my opinion. There's plenty. I think there's plenty of running backs who've been taken in the 3rd and 4th round who've had productive careers.
Yeah, but I don't think there's too many.
Playing Dynasty.
Yeah, but a 4th year contract is a 3-year contract, and then you're looking for an extension. Like,
if you get 3 years of production out of Michael Carter, aren't you thrilled though?
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to get that. I don't think you're going to get that high end production. I think if they've got the option to bring in a running back next off season, like we saw with Phil Lindsay. Phil Lindsay had 2 Pro Bowl seasons and then got replaced for the ghost of gone blank, Melvin Gordon. Phil Lindsay had 2 of the best seasons of any running back in that class, and he was an undrafted free agent and then got usurped. James Robinson put together the all-time, beat out some serious running backs. There, pre-2005, there were some serious running backs that were undrafted free agents that went on to have good NFL careers. and James Robinson outrushed all of them, and he doesn't have a job.
James Robinson is the starting running back on that team. He's going to be the Mark Ingram, and Etienne is going to be the Kamara. Okay.
I think we'll see that for the first.
I think James Robinson will have 1,000 yards.
We'll see that for the first. I think James Robinson might get to 1,000 yards between receptions and rushing, but he's not getting close. I think the gulf in talent between Etienne and Robinson is massive. Like, we're talking about a guy in Etienne who averaged something like nearly 7 yards per carry in the SEC. Like,
yeah, but James Robinson averaged 4.5 yards a carry in the NFL.
It's not even. It's playing chess and checkers.
Yeah, but we need a bathroom bet, fellas. We need a bathroom bet here. Come on.
Can we make bathroom bets?
What's the bet?
I think James Robinson. I think James Robinson is going to get 1,000 yards. I think he's going to hit it. I think he's going to get the carries. I'll put that on. I'll take that with both of you guys without an issue. 1,000 rushing yards, not 1,000 total yards. Rushing yards.
Man,
I'll let you even move the line to 800.
Hey.
You're going to give me 200 yards?
I'll take the under on 800. I'll take the under on 800.
All right. It's a bet. I don't know what we're betting, but it's fine.
It's a bathroom bet.
We're betting being right. Just being right. Being the king of
I'll buy you one of those
rightness.
Ever get in Melbourne?
What? Buy me what? You New South Walesians are never going to be allowed back in Melbourne.
What? I'll buy you one of those grape sour.
Thank you. I would like a grape sour. I don't have any at the moment. You can get me a slab. Thanks.
Hey, just back to Henderson. Back to Henderson. I've seen him go for seconds, and people saying that they'll take a second for him. I think Dynasty underdog. The fellas were talking about a second yesterday. I want to see how you could not hit that trade if I have a second and it's a late second for Henderson. I'd do that every time. Some of the leagues that, a late second in one of my leagues, Trey McKitty, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chuba Hubbard, Hunter Long. Like, if it's a late second, and this is a class that had 5 quarterbacks, so this is a super flex league, right? Next year, there's not going to be 5 quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds taken. So I think it's definitely worth a punt for a second. 24 first. I don't mind that either. Ball. That's you're not really getting anything. If you try and sell someone at 24 first, you're not really getting much return now. So I like the Henderson take.
I can see.
Sorry, Akers take. Sorry.
Yeah, see, I can see merit to trading for Henderson, but I'd rather go if you honestly believe that you are a top 3 team, and that's being 100%. You've got to put your hand on your heart and go, I'm a defending champion, or I made the final last year, or you're that 3rd or 4th team you managed to pick up Najee or Javonte in this class, then I can see merit to it. I can see more merit to trading for a guy like Chris Carson with a late first and getting guaranteed RB10 to RB14 production rather than gambling on Henderson, because I do think that team is going to have to bring in a running back to help. And if they bring in
I don't think you can say any RB is guaranteed to be an RB10 though. You can't guarantee any running backs in RB1 just because of the injuries and stuff.
I think if you've got one running back who's done it consistently and you're comparing him to a situation that's murky at best, I'd rather be spending the money in getting Chris Carson, knowing that I'm going to get 1 or 2 years out of him, than Henderson, who I'm going to get 1 or 2 years out of. I think there's a lot more certainty available elsewhere where you could go and get one of those guys.
In the startup I'm doing right now, Henderson, even after the Akers injury, lasted until the 13th round. So, I mean, I think that shows that the expectations for him aren't too high based off that. I would have thought he'd be snapped up a lot earlier than the 13th round after Akers got hurt. Our good buddy Lloyd Williams took Akers in round 3, and then he got hurt like the next day or two after that. Poor Lloyd. Sad for you, Lloyd. And then Lloyd
he owns a lot of Akers.
He's got a fair bit of Akers, but I think we had a conversation about it. It was only like 3 or 4, so not as many as you would think, being the huge Rams homer that he is.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to Akers, we've got a bit, full circle. Let's bring it back to Cam Akers. So for what you're willing to pay, which sounds like you'd pay any future first, or it's got to be 22, 20, like 24. I wouldn't pay a 23 first because I know that class is stacked. Right. 24 first. Yeah.
If I'm a top 2 to 3 team, and I've got a couple of leagues where the league that I actually spent the 2024 first on, that league I've won 2 out of the last 3 years and made the final the other year. And I'm still pretty young in that. I'm running, I think, Tannehill, Allen, Darnold, Watson as QBs. I've got Kelsey, Gesicki, and someone else at tight end. It's a 2 tight end league. I'm pretty young and pretty deep, and it was worth the gamble. I think if you're a top 2 to 3 team, I don't think it matters which draft it is. Like, realistically, this was quite a deep draft as well. In that there were 5 QBs, 5 first-round QBs to take. There was 2 to 3 running backs that got good value. So you're 8 players already. There was Kyle Pitts at 9, and then Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, depending on who your top 2 wide receivers are, is your 10th and 11th best player. I think if you're drafting 11th in this draft and you're getting Devontae Smith, you're pretty bloody happy.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with Cam Akers?
I think any late first is good value. I think if you're a mid to early team and you're not 100% sold, I'd err on the side of caution. I wouldn't want to be trading a top 6 pick in 23 for him.
A late first in Superflex?
Yeah, I think if you're trading a late 23 first for him, I can see merit in that. I think Cam Akers is going to be, even Cam Akers coming back, with every single player that comes off injury, there is that window where the hype starts again. Preseason next year, it's going to be Cam Akers. Unless Darrell Henderson goes out there and has 1,800 yards, there's going to be a window before next season where Cam Akers is the starting running back. Like preseason last year, there was a window to sell David Johnson for an early second.
No one's going to buy him for more than a first, though. No one's going to buy him for more than a first.
I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to,
even with that hype.
Yeah, I think you can give a second now to get him. If someone's offering me a first and I've got him, I'm taking it. But yeah, maybe 2 seconds would, for me personally, that's what I'd be looking at, a second, maybe 2 seconds, especially if it's a late second. But you might not have to give a first. But if it's a 24 first, that's different than next year or a 23rd. So I don't mind that approach, but I think a second you can get it done. Maybe a second or third.
I'm selling all day for a future first, because look at the first round of this year's rookie drafts. You would trade Akers for any of those players now. Anyone going in the first round of a Superflex rookie draft, you would trade Akers for any of those guys.
Pre-injury or post-injury?
Post-injury, now that he's hurt. you would trade him for any of those guys. Like I'm seeing Jalen Waddle, Mac Jones, like Javonte Williams. Those are the guys going in the back end of the first round of these rookie drafts. Devonta Smith, like you said, like why would you trade any of those guys right now for Cam Akers?
There's 5 QBs in this draft too, so we're not. That's not happened. As I was saying before with the Henderson rant.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen next year, is it? So those guys are they're not going to be there next year. But I still wouldn't give a first. I wouldn't trade it. But a second for me would be enough.
But we don't know that there won't be 5 quarterbacks. Like we've already got
bathroom bet. Let's do it.
We've already got Sam Howell, right? Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler could come out. Malik Willis, Jaden Daniels could get back into the first round consideration. I mean, that's already 4 just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's guys that I'm not even thinking of. There weren't 5
trades I made.
Yes, me and Bully, I traded Cam Akers to Bully for Jaden Daniels. Or it was actually Cam Akers and the corpse of Sonny Michel, to Bully for Jaden Daniels, who's a Devy quarterback from Arizona State University. Supported Brendan Ayuk in his breakout year. Was a big part of him posting the numbers that he did. Jaden, after his freshman season, he was, getting a lot of hype. Died to get down after COVID last season. Only played 5 games and threw for 700 or 800 yards, but he could really go either way. But I thought, in Devy, just roll the dice on the quarterback. He could play his way into the first round of NFL drafts, or he could fall off the map like Jamie Newman. But that's Devy, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
I think for me, I think for me, it just made a little bit more sense. I'm pretty set at quarterback. If I can get a season of RB2 production out of Sony Michel and then Cam Akers comes good, I mean, I'm onto a winner in that league. It just made a little bit of sense for me.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that turns out. Just before we continue, just want to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by Primetime Sports Talk, your top source for all major sports content, including DFS, fantasy advice, and great gambling tips. Be sure to head to primetimesportstalk.com to check out their in-depth analysis, exclusive articles, fascinating interviews, and explore the rest of their amazing podcast family. Again, primetimesportstalk.com. And please hit the like button and give us an Apple review. You can hear the podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Facebook, Toys to Titles, and When a Family Breaks, and of course, Spotify. Yeah. So, what does Cam Akers, Bull, have to give you to be happy with the investment that you're willing to make? All right. What does he have to come back and do?
I think anything in that high-end RB2 to mid-end RB2 is a price I'd be willing to pay. I think realistically, if you look at those players that finished at RB12 to RB16 last year, I don't think there's too many of them that you wouldn't pay a late first for. I think with that RB window, it's so hard to get a decent back-end RB1. I know the guys over at, I think it was Dynasty Nerds, did a lot of work late last year analysing the percentage of running backs that repeat as an RB1. And I think there was something like of the running backs that have been RB1 in the last 10 years, or I think it was 8 years, I think something like 30% of them repeat more than once or more than twice. I've very much gone away from the option of owning the Christian McCaffreys, Alvin Kamaras of the world, to just trying to string together almost streaming running backs rather than owning the stud. just because it is such an injury-plagued landscape that realistically, if I can get 2 to 3 RB2s, I'm much happier with that than owning Alvin Kamara and starting, Zach Moss. Like realistically, looking through the guys that finished as RB 12 to 16 last year, you've got Antonio Gibson, Nick Chubb, Kenyon Drake. All right, he's changed situation, but he's also put a big hole in the value of I've got like he's gone to Las Vegas.
Robo Bully is back. I missed that last part, mate.
Yeah, I think if you look at those RB2s from last year, you've got Antonio Gibson, Nick Chubb, Kenyon Drake, JD McKissick, who, is putting a big hole in your boy Antonio Gibson.
Antonio Gibson? Oh, please stop it. Stop it. Antonio Gibson is going to be he's a locked and loaded RB1. And this is to you too, Willie Beeman. Outside the top 12 running backs, Antonio Gibson, you guys are all on drugs. Okay? Like this guy hadn't played running back before, and he was like RB13 last year. He had 33 carries in college. RB13.
But okay, so comparing him and JD McKissick, do you want to have a guess at how many points difference there was between them last year in a PPR league?
I know McKissick he was a solid RB2 last year as well. He was up there as well. I get that, at all the targets. But Alex Smith, the checkdown king, is gone. Those targets are not going to be there for McKissick like they were last year. Gibson is going to take those targets. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them with a more proper off-season. So, get more, learn more pass blocking, understand the protections better, understand the route concepts better. He's going to take a lot of those targets. I think there's more chance that Antonio Gibson finishes as the RB1 overall than he finishes outside the top 12. Oh God, it's a maddening take. Just maddening.
He does play the Cowboys twice, so lock him in for about 1,000 points just on those two games. I think he's my RB8 in Dynasty rankings.
That's another point.
I think he's an RB1. But McKissick is there. I own McKissick in a couple of leagues. He's going to take a bit of a chunk of his work. So I think as long as McKissick's there, he can't be the RB1.
Besides the defense, besides the team that he plays on, the rest of the defenses in that division are garbage, like hot trash.
Yeah, I'd struggle to take him in the top 10 running backs. I could see an argument for being in that 11 to 15, 11 to 16 window. But I'm not taking Antonio Gibson over Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Henry, Montgomery, Taylor, Jacobs, Zeke. And that's not even including guys like Swift, Najee. There are genuine running backs that aren't converted running backs. And I think there's also an element of, you saw last year, Gibson was banged up a lot. And there's a big difference between 33 running back carries in college and 250 running back carries in the NFL.
He doesn't need 250 carries. He's going to get 200 carries. All right, he'll be close to 1,000 yards, and then he'll get 50, 60 receptions. He'll have 1,600 yards total. I'm very confident. Yeah, look, so with your strategy of get the solid RB2s,
yeah,
I mean, for that to work, you've got to have elite wide receivers, because anything after wide receiver 8 doesn't even matter. Or you probably need elite wide receivers and elite tight ends.
Yeah, but I think that goes to a lot of my strategy. There's not too many leagues where I don't own one of Kelsey, Waller, Kittle. I think I've only got one share of Pitts. But you know,
I'm happy to take that off your hand too. If you're selling it in Kraken, I'll take him. Mates rates.
I don't know. I listened to your pod last week, and I nearly came shopping Bateman for you. I was nearly looking at a Bateman and OBJ deal there.
He's grown on me.
Yeah, like I do tend to take one of those big three tight ends. Usually it's Kelsey or Waller. I sold a lot of Kittle. I bought a lot of Kittle before he broke out, and I sold a lot of him. Lucas is one of those guys that I managed to get on the train as well early on. But I do tend to own one of those big three tight ends. I think the difference there between tight end 3 and tight end 10 is, you know, you're looking at 10 points a week. I think when you're looking at the running back situation,
it's like having an extra flex player. Yeah, I understand the running back situation, but the wide receiver situation is just so deep, right? It's so deep.
But I think that's where it lends itself to, you don't, like with that wide receiver situation, I think you've got the luxury that if you farm them right, you can buy some really good wide receivers cheap. I bought a heap of DeAndre Hopkins last year at 27 years old or 28 years old, and I bought him for you're looking late first because he changed teams. And I think with wide receivers you can do a lot more to get elite wide receiver production.
But they need to produce like DeAndre Hopkins, right? And only half a dozen do each year. Like if you're not in that top 6 to 8 wide receivers, like wide receiver 10 to wide receiver 30, it doesn't even seem to be that much of a difference as far as production.
You're still getting, like, if you've got the wide receiver, like, so last year wide receiver 15 was Robbie Anderson, but let's ignore him and go to wide receiver 16 and Cooper Kupp. So 14 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ability is you can own less wide receivers as well. They don't tend to miss as many games banged up. So if you can grab yourself aging wide receivers like DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, Mike Evans, you're locked in for 3 wide receiver, top 12 wide receiver games. You don't have to worry about those positions as much, and you can just plug them in every single week. And you know that, yes, Mike Evans might give you a 4-point week followed by a 40-point week, but their price is a lot cheaper. And that allows you to spend capital elsewhere on getting a Chris Carson, Lev Bell the season before, and just allows you to be a lot more flexible.
I might have exaggerated a little bit, but if you look at like a Justin Jefferson or an AJ Brown, all right, in points per game, they were around 16 points per game, and back end wide receiver 1, right, or an early wide receiver 2, or high end wide receiver 2, right, at around 16 points a game. CD Lamb, all the way down at wide receiver 32, gave you 13 points a game.
Yeah, I think it's the wide receivers you're targeting though. Like, I think I tend to, and I mean this goes into a whole different debate. I tend to avoid the Devontae Adams of the world. Devontae Adams will be a back end wide receiver 1 most seasons. He had an outstanding season last year, but that was also led by Aaron Rodgers having a career year as well, trying to stick it up Green Bay.
So you're not targeting stud running backs. You're not targeting stud wide receivers.
No, I just don't. I want stud wide receivers, but I want the Tyreek Hills, the Stephon Diggs, the DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Julio. I own so much Julio. Guys that are going to give me 15 weeks every single season. They're going to be wide receiver 4 to 10. I can put them in, and I don't have to worry about it. Devontae Adams is.
I don't think any of those players had 10 wide receiver 1 games.
No, but I think I've gone away from looking at trying to have those 300-point weeks. Like, I've looked at it as if you can put together a team that's going to score X amount of points each week, they're going to be above average for X amount of weeks. They're going to get you into that playoff situation. You know, Devontae Adams, I've had this argument far too many times, and I think you've been on the receiving end of this rant a couple of times, Benny. I just don't think Adams' value matches his hype. If you look at Devontae Adams, I think last year was his career best season. Outside of that, I think he's had one 1,000-yard season before that.
Hasn't he been the
value?
No.
He's been
the wide receiver 1 overall the last 2 years. No, 2 out of the last 3 years, hasn't he?
Yeah. So all right. So he's had 2 seasons.
2 seasons, but that's 2 seasons as the wide receiver 1 overall. I'm pretty certain. Maybe I'm wrong.
So he had 1,300 yards in 2020. He had 900 yards in 2019. He had 1,300 yards in 2018. He had 800 yards in 2017, 900 yards in 2016, 400 yards, 400 yards. You're drafting a guy top 6 overall who's given you 2 wide receiver 1 seasons in his career.
I'm pretty sure, like on a per game basis, and it was driven by touchdowns. He was still a wide receiver 1 in 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2020. I understand in 2016 and 2017 it was touchdown driven, but I'm pretty certain he was still a wide receiver 1 in points per game.
Yeah, so you compare
that's 4 wide receiver 1 seasons.
You compare value.
But 2 of those seasons are high end wide receiver 1, like top, top 2-3 finisher at the position.
But you're looking at Devontae Adams is a top 12 startup pick at the moment on ADP. I'm pretty sure.
No, it depends what ADP you're looking at.
So if we go to,
I don't think he is in the sleeper ADP. I don't think he's top 12 in Superflex.
In Dynasty Underdog. In Dynasty Underdog, he went at wide receiver 11. I don't think he's that. What value is he? He's not that big, and that was before the sort of Rodgers news break. I think he's probably pushed down further. But you're not giving up multiple firsts to get him anymore, are you? A high first at a second, you can probably grab him. I think he's not that. You're not going to get 3 firsts for him, right?
I would say that right now he's a buy, like you were saying. Hopkins was a buy last year. I would say that he's entered that tier.
I don't think he's the same style of wide receiver. I think if you're talking about Hopkins is.
So what you're saying is you think Adams is Rodgers dependent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was enough there with Diggs, and I bought a fair amount of Diggs as well, where I don't think he was QB dependent. I think if you look at every time Adams hasn't had Rodgers, it's been a shit show. I think
I don't think that's true. Well, what was it 2018 or 2019 that Rodgers missed a bunch of games? I can't remember.
2019, and he had 83 receptions for 990 yards and 5 touchdowns.
But he had that in 12 games though.
But that's my point. Do you really want to be worrying about, oh shit, Devontae's out this week, I need to start, No, but the point was that, huh?
I thought the point was that he was Rodgers dependent. It was 2017. 2017. Rodgers only played in 7 games, right? 2017. So he had 885 yards and 10 touchdowns in 14 games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he plays a full season, he probably gets or just misses out on 1,000 yards.
But this is my big issue with Davante Adams. He doesn't.
Yeah. Look, I don't know how you could watch him run. I'm not an Adams, fanboy or anything, but I don't know how you can watch him run routes and say that he's Rodgers dependent. I just don't think that's the case. If Drew Lock's the starting quarterback, he's probably going to be in some trouble. But I think it just depends on if he gets adequate quarterback play. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
But that does segue into this whole Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams saga going on with the Packers right now. Is Aaron Rodgers a Green Bay Packer this season? Does he play for the Green Bay Packers, guys? Give me your takes.
I think he does. I think he's there. I think it's Green Bay's got the leverage, and that little Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan picture that him and Adams posted. My take on that, it's homage to the Last Dance, and they're going to do one Last Dance together, and then go host Jeopardy or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, look, I think he plays one more season with Green Bay.
Bully, what do you reckon happens?
I'd be avoiding the whole situation, to be honest. If I own Rodgers, he's.
But what do you think's going to? What do you think's going to happen though?
I don't think he pulls on a Green Bay jersey again.
That's my take too. I don't think he's going to play for the Packers.
I think we've seen enough out of Aaron Rodgers that he is a petulant child for the most part. And I mean, you only got to go back to early in his career where he was willing to walk into that locker room and badmouth the guys in front of him. That I think his entire time in Green Bay, he's been that too cool for school quarterback that has been all about him. And you know what? Like, when you look at his actual play in the NFL, it's reflected in that. He has struggled to support more than Davante Adams. And I mean, I do think a lot of this is on the organization. I think when you look at that organization, they've had 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play for 2 Super Bowl wins. There's no other team in the NFL.
I think that's part of Rodgers' problem, though. That they've had all that elite quarterback play, and they've only got 2 Super Bowls because the Packers don't go in to win. Rodgers wants to play out the twilight of his career on a team that's going to do what the Buccaneers are doing now with Brady, what New Orleans did with Breeze. They're going to go in year after year. They're going to manipulate the cap. They're going to push it forward into the future so they can keep bringing in players in a bid to win a championship. And he doesn't think that the Packers will do that. I'm sure he thinks that once they've got that signature, once they've got the signature on a contract, that he's at their mercy again, and that they'll stop. What am I saying? They'll stop investing in players, and they'll let their free agents walk, and they'll just draft rookies, and he won't win another ship. That's why I think.
But see,
go boy.
I think a lot of his not having weapons is down to him. I think, and as much as it's going to hurt me to criticize it, I think a lot of Brady's unwillingness in his final year in New England was an unwillingness to use the receivers he had because he didn't have those guys that he trusts. I think Aaron Rodgers has a similar element to him to a lesser extent where, and we've seen it. Marquez Valdez-Scantling as a rookie, he went on a tear on 3 weeks that Devontae Adams was out, and I think he had 3 games in a row which were 100-yard games. I think he put together a 3-week stretch of nearly 420, 430 yards. Devontae Adams came back, and in the next 4 weeks, Valdez-Scantling got, I think, 2 targets.
It's because Adams is an elite wide receiver and Scantling isn't. And Rodgers has supported, Jordy Nelson. He supported Greg Jennings. Like, he's had other elite weapons, and supported other elite weapons. Like, I mean, Tonyan was good last year, even though that was it was touchdown dependent.
Aaron Jones as well.
But yeah, look, I'm of the same mind as you believe that he won't play for the Packers, and I do believe that a big part of it is, like you said, I'm not going to say Aaron Rodgers is a petulant child, because I do think the Green Bay organization has let down Aaron Rodgers. They don't treat him like other teams treat their franchise players. They don't. They do not give him the respect that other teams give to their superstar quarterbacks. I just don't see it.
I think there's also an element of it's on Aaron Rodgers. He's spent his entire career chasing Tom Brady, and he's had the opportunity to see firsthand what Brady has done, taking pay cut.
Oh, who cares about Brady and his pay cuts?
No, but what I'm saying is,
I care.
If Rodgers is constantly saying, I need weapons, and there's no money in the budget to buy weapons.
But there has been money, though. And they just haven't spent it. They roll it over. They don't spend it. They let players walk. They don't re-sign. Like we all know the NFL salary cap is not real.
Yeah, but
it's
what
not
I'm saying,
real. It's
but what I'm saying is, like, so Brady's gone over to Tampa Bay, and immediately year one, guys like Mike Evans have gone, yeah, I'll take a pay cut to keep the team together. Chris got,
when did Evans take a pay cut? He took a restructure. He didn't take a pay cut.
Yeah, he took a restructure for less money per year so that they could retain Antonio Brown in that. Like,
no, he did not take less money.
But like, Rodgers is sitting there and he wants to take $40 million a year. Like, if you the difference between $30 million a year and $40 million a year is literally being able to bring in a tier 1 wide receiver to put opposite Devontae Adams. And I'm sorry, but if you're on $30 million a year to $40 million a year, cool. Buy one less mansion, buy one less Maserati, and you'll be okay. If you honestly want to win Super Bowls, like, you have seen it, that the way to win Super Bowls isn't to win it with $40 million a year quarterbacks. Like, it's not. It's with rookie quarterbacks or quarterbacks that are willing to take, or quarterbacks that take less money.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's what we're going to see with Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes' window to win, I think it's closing rapidly. I think the moment he starts to hit that $50 million a year and they can't afford Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, their stud left tackle, I think they're going to be in trouble. Like,
so do you think? So you don't think you don't think Rodgers is going to be back with Green Bay? Do you think he plays? Do you guys think he plays next season on another team, or do you think he just retires?
I think we're heading for a Lev Bell, Antonio Brown meltdown.
If it's not Green Bay, I don't think he plays anywhere. I think the bookies are right. The book market's got him retiring. We're saying off screen, that's the smart one. He's come for them. So that's the only reason I think he doesn't play in Green Bay. But I just think they have the leverage. And yes, I think he can be petty and whatnot. But Green Bay used that to their advantage last year. And I think they'll do it again this year. I think he comes back. I think they make the playoffs again. And who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if they, were deep into the playoffs and maybe make a Super Bowl run.
Look, he's got the same agent. He's got the same agent as Carson Palmer when Palmer forced his trade to Arizona from the Raiders. Or no, sorry, was it from the Raiders or from the Bengals? I think it was the Bengals where he forced the trade. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got the same agent as Palmer when he forced a trade. So it'll be interesting. I think the fantasy implications, if Rodgers gets traded to, say, Denver, you've got a bunch of players who are all of a sudden way more fantasy relevant, right? You got Jordan Love who becomes fantasy relevant. You got Sutton who becomes more fantasy relevant. You got Judy who becomes more fantasy relevant. Fant who becomes more fantasy relevant. Like, I think it's wheels up for a bunch of players, and only really Adams takes a hit. So I think that's a massive altering to the fantasy dynasty landscape. Yeah. Like if Noah Fant has Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback, where is he in your tight end rankings?
Like, I think he maybe jumps Hawk, but I don't see him moving into a top 4. I think the top 4 is reasonably set. I think he maybe moves into that 5, 6, 7 range with Andrews and Hawk. But I think the big winner there would be Cortland Sutton. I
think it'd be Judy, because Judy to me profiles a lot more like Adams as that elite route runner. I think both would have really good years, but for fantasy, I'd look at Sutton having something like 70 to 80 receptions for a high per catch and like 1,200 yards, whereas I think Judy would be that guy getting a bunch of targets, catching 110 balls for 1,300 yards. I think he'd just be a PPR machine with Aaron Rodgers. And Jordan Love, with his wheels and his arm ability, I think he'd finish as a low-end QB1, high-end QB2.
Yeah.
I think it's Rodgers. I think the upside's Rodgers. I think if he goes there, I think all the guys take a step, but they sort of cannibalize each other a little bit. But you can see him exploding again for another QB. Was he the overall QB1 last year?
I think he was.
He was. Yeah, so I think that happens again for a couple of years because of the weapons he's got and his nature. He'd be going all out.
I mean, they're cannibalizing each other at the moment, right? It's Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater and not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting thing would be there that I could see a hit where Patrick Mahomes takes a big hit with the fact that he has to play that Denver team with Rodgers under center twice a year. I think that would force the Chiefs to actually go, all right, we can't just have an in-division track meet every week. They'd actually have to spend some money elsewhere on strengthening up that defense.
But wouldn't it turn that matchup into a track meet? Because now the Denver offense can keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs offense, and they're just throwing the ball all over the place instead of the Chiefs running up a lead and start running the ball.
Yeah, but I think
you could be looking at 2 games every year, like that Rams Chiefs game.
Yeah, but I think at some point they'd have to spend the money elsewhere. They'd have to strengthen that defense because, like, Tyreek Hill, yep, he's probably the best receiver there, but who's the second best receiver on that Chiefs team?
Kelsey.
Okay, so Kelsey, an aging Kelsey and a rising Noah Fant. They're
an aging Kelsey coming off the best season a tight end has ever had.
Yeah, but he is 30. And if we're talking about the next 2 to 3 seasons, at some point, age is going to catch him. Like, it caught Tony Gonzalez. Like,
he's still going to be elite this year, though.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. But I'm just saying, like, realistically, so you've got Hill, Sutton, you've got Kelsey, Fant. Judy is far better than anything that the Chiefs have as their second best receiving option.
You're forgetting
running back than Edwards-Helaire.
Javonte's better than Edwards-Helaire. Whoo, that's a big call, man. He's better.
I think the Chiefs would be forced to work on that defense, and I think the thing that they've realized is they've been exposed a couple of times. Like, what did the Bucks put on them in the Super Bowl? 30-something.
Yeah, but that was about the offensive line, and the Bucks had some lucky plays in that game, right?
Yeah.
There were a couple of long touchdowns. I think that were pretty fluky, short drives that were just unfortunate for Kansas City. But where it went wrong was the offensive line. So, but in regards to Denver and Aaron Rodgers if he went to Denver, I think obviously it'd be wheels up for a bunch of guys and down for Adams.
Does Denver have the cap room to fit him?
It's NFL again, bully. The salary cap isn't real. It's not real. It's fake.
They'll pay for it. They'll pay for it in a couple of years. They'll move it down, right? It's real, but you can put it off for 2-3 years, right? And then just take one hit and rebuild. Is what the Patriots did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So according to Over the Cap, see, like Denver are in for a couple of guys. Like they're still in for Von Miller for 18 mil.
I think
like,
when it comes to getting Aaron Rodgers,
probably got the case. I think they've got that.
Yeah, look, it might not even happen. He might just retire, or he might play for Green Bay. But I don't think the salary cap in the NFL never really prevents much from happening. I mean, I remember a world where the Rams were stuck with Jared Goff and Todd Gurley for years and years and years because of their contracts. Remember that world? Everybody thought, Goff's a safe quarterback in Dynasty because of that contract and whatnot and blah, blah, blah. Well, he ain't safe anymore, Toto. Right? So...
Yeah, but I think you've also got to look at how many organizations are going to be willing to be in the world of hurt that organization is going to be in 2 years.
Denver's willing to do that to win because they understand they've got a good enough skill set of weapons on offense, a good enough team on defense, and to me, this has always been the problem with Green Bay and why they only have 2 championships despite 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play. So, anyway.
I agree that I do think that at some point Green Bay should have pushed it in. I just don't know whether Denver is willing to do it. Like that Rams organization, okay, so they've got Stafford there for the next little bit. And part of the reason that I'm so safe on Akers is they've got, I think, one pick in the top 2 rounds in the next 3 years.
Yeah, but you can find running backs off the street, though.
Yeah,
you know.
But like those running backs off the street, you're paying a good portion of Todd Gurley's salary still.
Yeah, but despite limited draft capital, right? They like last year, even though they had Cup and Woods, they bought in Van Jefferson. This year, despite drafting Van Jefferson in round 2, last year, was it round 2 or 3? Pretty sure it was round 2. They still bought in Tutu Atwell. Right? They drafted Akers, even though they just drafted Henderson. And you would be saying the same thing, right? That they had limited draft capital, but they still spent that draft capital on where they had just spent it previously.
Yeah, but at some point, they're going to need to replace Stafford. Like, I love Stafford for the next 2 years in fantasy. Like, I think prior to him breaking his back, I think he was on pace for about 5,400 yards. And you've got a 17-game season now as well. So, like, I think there's every possibility that Stafford could throw for 6,000 yards this season. But at some point, they're going to need to look at drafting someone in that 2nd or 3rd round as a backup because I don't even know who their backup is at the moment.
It's the kid that they were going to start over Goff last year. I can't remember his name. But, obviously the Rams aren't... Yeah, I think it was John Walford or Woodford. Walford. I can't remember.
Walford. I think it was Walford.
Yeah. But, I mean, look, I don't think they're going to be thinking about a Stafford long-term replacement until they've got their first-round picks back. if they don't trade them again.
So what are we looking at? 2025 now, yeah?
2025, but he'll still only be 36. You know, he could still. He's still got a cannon of an arm right now. I mean, I think if he wants to be playing at 36, he'll be playing at 36. I don't think that it's a huge concern for them.
I think Stafford is heading for a quicker drop off than the likes of Rodgers and Brady. I think Rodgers and Brady and that have managed to stay fairly injury free on their upper body for the most part. I think if you look at guys like Big Ben that have suffered with those upper body injuries throughout their career, the drop-off is very, very quick. And I think, like, what Stafford broken his back twice, hasn't he? Yeah, like...
No, only once.
What did he miss another season for?
He hurt his back early in his... I think it was his rookie year, wasn't it? He hurt himself and missed most of the year.
Yeah, like... I thought he'd hurt his back twice. But yeah, I just think that, like, as I said, like I wouldn't be surprised if Stafford has, 5.5 to 6,000 yards this year with an extended season. But
it was year 2. He only played 3 games, but I couldn't tell you what he got hurt. Yeah. What he had, but this is only his age 33 season. I'd really expect him to play another 5 years.
Yeah. So he separated his AC shoulder joints in 2010, had a hand finger dislocation, 2016, knee patella, shoulder joint again, tailbone fracture. So yeah, look, a couple of injuries there, but I like what they're doing the Rams. I think it makes sense. I think with their, aging Andrew, it's like 40 years old, push all your chips in, go all out, and then just take that 1 year where you rebuild. You're terrible, and you get your cap space back.
No.
See, I could almost see a situation hurting Henderson where they almost look to bring in Todd Gurley back into the system for vet minimum.
I don't think Todd Gurley would come back there after what they did to him and not pay it. There was some money that they weren't going to pay him. That'd be an interesting one.
But if they hit the end of preseason and he's unemployed and Henderson is their only real run, who have they got? They've got some Kelly kid behind him as well.
They got Jeremy Funk, who everybody's picking up all of a sudden. Is it Funk? Something Funk.
Xavier Jones too, right?
Yeah, but I think we're just picking them up because there's a chance that if Henderson goes down, one of them might get some carries. Like you've got a guy like if Gurley is floating around out there without a job, the ability for him to come in and just, even if it's only 8 carries a game, to spell Henderson for vet minimum when he knows the system. There's just too many things like that. There's too many running. Even there's talk if Royce Freeman gets cut, he could end up there. I think Freeman is at least as good as Henderson.
Let's not waste time talking about Royce Freeman. Come on. All right, we're getting on here.
I think the key takeaway is if you own Akers, Bull will give you a first for him all day long. So get shopping people.
After 70 minutes, that's what we've ascertained. But we've got to wrap it up. We've got to wrap it up here soon.
I'm a running back this year. Leave me alone.
Hey. Which one? Najee. You're all in on Najee.
I'm all in on Najee.
But we got to wrap this up soon. But before we do, I just wanted to let everybody know that Toilets to Titles have a Patreon now. It's at www.patreon.com/Toilets to Titles. Tier 1 is $3 per month. Tier 2 is $5 per month. The Tier 1 gets you into the team group chat. Tier 2 gets you early access to the waiver wire episodes, entry into our Frankenstein Listener League, and T2T team group chat. And Tier 3 is $10 per month. Gets you one-on-one roster analysis, free entry into our Frankenstein Listener League, T2T group chat, and early access to the waiver wire episodes. And also, we are still giving away a Trey Lance mini helmet, and all you have to do is donate a minimum of $2 to the Tim Tebow Foundation, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and email a screenshot of your donation and subscription to toiletstotitles@gmail.com. Yeah. So that's I think that's all the formalities done. 70 minutes into the pod. Did anybody else have anything else they want to talk about?
Just quickly, Michael Thomas, guys. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but what are you doing with Michael Thomas? I think it's a bit overblown, his injury. I think he can be back after missing maybe 3 or 4 games. Not sure if it's half a season, as people are saying yet. So I think you can get some value there.
I don't own any Thomas. Won't be buying any Thomas.
I think it depends on price. I think I've seen him be bought for a single first. I think if you can buy him for a single first, I think it's worth it. I think those elite wide receivers, he gets nicknamed Slant Boy and everything else. That's all he does. But, he is a fairly good technician, and there's no one else there that's going to catch balls. And if you're going to throw a guy like, if Jameis ends up as the starting QB there, the ball's going to be flying around. So he's going to have to throw to someone.
I don't think it was so much that Michael Thomas was Slant Boy. I think it was that Drew Brees was Slant Boy.
Yeah. But if that,
I like that take. I like that.
If that is the case, then I think that increases the need for him to be a buy. He's tied up there, and Peyton does tend to have his guys, like he's shown with Taysom, that I think if any other team, Taysom Hill isn't getting the contract that he's got, but Peyton's gone out and paid him what he wants. Thomas has been with that organisation a while. I think Sean will be fairly loyal to him, and I think you could almost end up with a situation Larry Fitzgerald-esque where at 35, 36, he's still hanging around there.
Not if these ankle injuries keep coming up, but we'll see.
Yeah.
He's for a first. I would for a single first I'd buy if it's a big time contender, but he's not someone that I'm going out throwing out a bunch of offers for. I'm feeling shades of last season already, where he's just banged up all year and working his way through that injury. That's what I'm feeling. I was buying OBJ last year thinking, he's going to be back. OBJ, he's going in like round 5 or 6. What a bargain. And now he's going in round 10. So, it remains to be seen with Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that we should wrap it up now, boys, because we've gone for a while. My dog's looking at me like he wants to walk. But it's been always fun talking Dynasty fantasy football with Bully, and glad you were here, Dormat. But we'll have to do it again soon.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.